Hi, I just wanted to let you all know that I'm going to be away for the next week. I'm going on a family vacation. As this video goes up, I'm probably in the car driving with family to a place where we're going to spend some time with people and have some fun. So just taking a little bit of personal time off. I have some things pre-recorded that are uploaded. The mix and match compilation will continue. Ooh, I haven't done a conclusion to that yet. Okay, so I should do that before I leave. Gonna record a bunch of stuff today, as much as I can, to get as many things as I can up for the coming week, so there won't be too much of a break. I'll probably be back to uploading Tuesday the 19th, maybe something on Monday the 18th at the earliest, but don't count on that one, because I'll be getting back Sunday evening, and I don't know if I'll have the energy to record stuff. Anyway. So, in addition to that, it's been a while since we've talked. Last one of these I did, I think, was about streaming services and ads and stuff. That was kind of weird. But still, it was a good discussion. Yeah, a bunch of stuff that I've wanted to talk about, but it's just never quite felt like the right time. So in a few videos and things, I've mentioned that I took a trip this past March to GDC in San Francisco. I wanted to talk some about this, but I got this, chain of illnesses when I came back that stopped me from making videos for a while because I lost my voice and just knocked me off my feet, and I don't know, just the continuing fallout, I guess, from that lasted way longer than I expected, and it just sort of eventually trailed off, but I never had a nice clean time to say, okay, I'm better now let's talk about everything that's happened. So let's do it now. So as I've mentioned before, I had a case of influenza and laryngitis from bronchitis, and those were causing me all sorts of problems. I was very unhappy, had one of the worst weeks of my life, several weeks actually. Yeah, this lasted a while. Already mentioned, got some medicine for that. It helped me out. One of the medications that I was prescribed for that was Mucinex D, was the name of it. So it was a decongestant that contained pseudoephedrine, and after I had taken this, let me back up just a moment. So I have a chronic condition called cluster headaches. If you don't know what they are, you could look them up on Wikipedia. There's a pretty good description there. They're pretty severe, unilateral pain, kind of just behind my right eye. Tends to happen right around 4 a.m. and wake me up, and it's really unpleasant. It takes about an hour or two to go away, usually. And I'm kind of just lying there in pain, doesn't really respond to painkillers much. So anyway, what I'm saying is these things are really nasty, and I want to avoid them as much as possible. I've made some lifestyle changes over the last several years, trying to just figure out what causes these, basically, what my triggers are, and how to avoid those. I completely stopped drinking all alcohol a few years ago because that was observably one of the major triggers to it. So that was one of the changes I had made. Now, I had one of these a few days after I had started taking my antibiotics and decongestants. So I took a closer look at this decongestant and learned that pseudoephedrine is a vasoconstrictor. So it constricts blood vessels, which often causes headaches. The medication I take to stop the headaches from happening is called verapamil. It's a vasodilator, so the opposite of a vasoconstrictor. So I came up with the theory that, maybe this stuff is a headache cause, just like alcohol was, and I should probably stop taking it. At that point, my congestion had mostly cleared up, so I was good to stop taking it. So I made another doctor appointment, and my doctor agreed with my theory that that was a trigger for the headaches. So he just advised me to stay away from any kind of vasoconstrictors. And got a new course of verapamil, dealt with headaches for a while, and they're gone now, finally. So yeah, just for the rest of my life, pretty much, I need to be sure that I don't take anything containing pseudoephedrine, and also be careful of any other kind of vasoconstrictor, and watch for other triggers if any come up. Anyway, so that's just a little bit of stuff. Yeah, seems like this year has been defined by many medical issues for me. I don't like to talk about those much, but sometimes they need to be talked about. Anyway, so, stepping aside from those things, let's talk about the trip that I took. in March. So I went to the Game Developers Conference in San Francisco. This is something that I had gone to for like 8 years in a row previously. Yeah, this one was my 9th. I actually skipped it last year because I was sort of just feeling disconnected from the game developer community. I had been taking some time off from doing any kind of game development, and just didn't feel like I needed to be there that year, basically. And it costs a lot of money, so it's nice to save money by not going. Yeah, it costs a lot of money. I'm kind of in a slight bit of a financial squeeze because of that and some other things right now. It's fine. Just need to manage money carefully. Anyway, so having taken a year off, this year felt a lot different from the prior years because I had a 2-year gap in there. So I felt a lot of cynicism when I was there. It's normally a very positive thing for me to go. I've had some years that are certainly worse than others. This one was, I mean, I wouldn't say it was a bad trip. I didn't have a bad time there, but I was much more aware of some of the more negative aspects of having been there. I saw a lot of repeating patterns in, like, a lot of the talks I gave. People went over the same points that I'd heard again and again over the time that I'd been there. And just seeing certain patterns of gamer culture come out and be appropriated by people, and just... it's hard to define exactly what it is that bothers me so much. There was one area of the conference which was right next to the store where you can buy, like, conference shirts and pins and things like that if you want any of that stuff. I couldn't find a shirt that fit me. They all sold out by the time I got there, so I didn't buy any of that. Anyway, so every time I walked by there was either Kirby or Portal music playing. It was always one of those two that I heard. And this just bothered me on a deep level for some reason. It just felt so much like... boy, it's hard to put it into words, but... things I used to... I was never a big fan of the Portal series, but I like Kirby. But it's just like, hey, these are... well, yeah, like I said, it's really hard to put this into words. It just feels like it's being appropriated for cynical corporate reasons, and... I don't know. I cannot describe what I felt from hearing that music every time there. Like... hey, we're part of your culture. Come see our store. We like the same music as you. I get the impression that people there just didn't really care about that. And man, hopefully at least some of you get what I'm trying to say here, because I'm completely failing to say it. Anyway, so just that bothered me. Now, usually at GDC, there's the conference and there's the expo. Expo happens in its own sort of dedicated space. You can walk through this super noisy hall of different booths with big vendors and people who want to sell you their software or tell you about their games or do whatever the heck they do there. Usually the IGF Pavilion, one of the places I like hanging out the most there, was on the expo floor. IGF is the Independent Games Festival. They give out awards for indie games that submit to this festival. The award show is always a lot of fun. I like to go to that. Anyway, so at the IGF Pavilion, they have all of the finalists playable, and the developers usually, most of them come and you can come meet them and talk to them about their games, and it's really a lot of fun. This year, I don't know how it was last year because I wasn't there, but this year the IGF Pavilion was in a different place from the expo floor, so just in a quieter space. I liked it a lot. I was able to hang out there without having to walk through the maze of just this sea of corporate culture and, you know, the big AAA industry, the stuff I usually stay away from. I'm so much more into indie games. Yeah, there's this weird stratification at the conference of those two things. Like they're kind of at odds. They're both there, very much present, but the two groups only mingle so much, I guess. I don't know. I know which group I'm in. So I went to the expo floor once during my week there, just to walk through and see how I felt about it. And this was just the peak of my cynicism while I was there. I wore earplugs the whole time because it was noisy and I didn't want to interact with anything there. Anyway, so just wanted to experience it briefly to see how I felt about it, and it was exactly as I expected. So yeah, just saying, I felt a lot of cynicism from that. So why do I go there? A lot of people actually asked me this question when I was there. And I didn't usually have a very good answer for them beyond just that I like to go and see friends from all over the world who I've made from having been there previous years or talking to over the internet. So yeah, the best answer I was able to come up with is I like to go to break my isolation, because I live in a place that's just sort of middle of nowhere. It's a town of like 50, 60,000 people, something like that, which in the United States isn't considered very large. I'm fairly certain there is no game developer community in my town, and I would have to drive to like Washington, D.C., I think is going to be the closest place that would have something like, say, an IGDA meetup. So I'm pretty much on my own here. So I like to actually get a chance to see people in person and, see what they're talking about, see what they're doing, talk to them, make new friends. So that's basically my reason for going there, pretty much. I'll probably go next year. I expect, if I can afford it, and if I don't feel like I'm completely disconnected from the whole culture of game development again, like I was. The thing is, man, downtown San Francisco is a pretty horrifying place. Where this takes place is just this, I don't know, there's a lot of poverty. Like, there's just nonstop panhandling. Like, walking from the hotel to the conference center, I'll see like 6 or 7 homeless people asking me for money pretty much every time. That might be a high estimate, but, I'm sure at least some of the times it's been that many. People yelling, wanting to get attention in this sea of super crowded... Oh, man, the overcrowding in San Francisco is just awful. Like, everything is packed together super tight. It would be a much nicer place if there were about half the people. That's what I think. And there's lots of construction. The whole conference center was under construction the whole time I was there, which was interesting. It's kind of a nightmare just to navigate around all the, walls of tarps they had set up and scaffolds and just things everywhere. It was interesting. There's a lot of crime and danger in the area where it happens. I have personally witnessed someone's tablet get stolen right out of their hands on the street. Thief ran away, didn't get caught, as far as I could see. And one of the people who went there, some sort of high-profile person, was apparently hit by a car during this conference that I was there. So yeah, there's been a little bit of a push to get this moved to a sort of safer place for it. But anyway, so I was very aware of that. I stay aware of my surroundings. I don't go to dangerous areas. I try not to go out at night too much when I'm there, So I know how to stay safe, but just statistically, people coming to these things are put in danger, and somebody's going to have something go wrong to them, whether, anyway. But some more positive things about it. I got to meet and talk to some pretty cool people. So Matt Thorson and Noel Berry, developers of Celeste, were there showing their game. So I got to talk to them. I had met both of them and made their acquaintance in previous years, but it was nice to talk to them about my favorite game. Yeah, that was super cool. Alex, Scott, and Bethany from Night in the Woods were there too. Both Celeste and Night in the Woods got awards at the IGF, and I was very happy about that. Night in the Woods won like every award there. It was pretty impressive. They did extremely well. Didn't actually get to talk to those people. They were busy the only times that I had seen them, but I saw them. I heard them talk to other people in my area. So Jeff Vogel from Spiderweb Software gave a talk there. He had been there a previous year that I had attended, and I found that talk very inspiring, so I caught up with him later and got to talk to him a little bit. He's a real interesting character. Talk a little bit more about that later. Arvi Tekari Hempuli from Environmental Station Alpha was showing Baba Is You there at the IGF Pavilion, so I got to talk to him too, and that was cool. Baba Is You is a game that I'm very much looking forward to playing when it releases, supposedly in the coming months sometime. And Jim Stormdancer, formerly Jim Crawford, is a friend that I made a few years ago. And it's kind of funny how we got to meet each other. He does a podcast called Video Games Hot Dog that I like to listen to. He also made Frog Fractions and Frog Fractions 2, so that's where you might know him from. So the way I met him was funny. a few years in a row when I came here, this random person from the crowd would catch up to me when I was leaving a talk or something and say, "Hey, can I take your picture? You look just like somebody I know. I want to send this picture to him." So this happened like 3 or 4 years in a row, and it just sort of became a thing. Every time I'd see this guy, he would take my picture and send it to his friend who looked like me. Eventually, after a few years of this, I found out that his friend who looked like me was Jim. So then we got to meet and make each other's acquaintance. So that was cool. He doesn't actually look that much like me, I think. But anyway, yeah, Chris Cornell was the guy taking the pictures. He's from Paper Dinos is the name of the company. They made Save the Date, some other stuff. I should take a closer look at their stuff. Anyway, so yeah, just got to spend some time with my friends, and that was nice. Saw some cool talks. Jason Rohrer, who's made a bunch of games, notably working on one called 1 Hour, 1 Life right now. He made one called Passage. Anyway, a name you might have heard. Gave one about productivity. Productivity is something that interests me. I use a technique that's sort of like a modified Pomodoro. I'll set a stopwatch. I'll start a stopwatch when I want to say, I want to be productive. I want to write some code and not be distracted. So basically, I just give myself a time unit of half an hour to sit down and do something productive, be uninterrupted. What this does is it lets me say, it gives me sort of a time-bounding mechanism to say, well, I want to check Twitter, but, I can wait 15 minutes for that until my time unit is over. So I can just actually focus on something and put off all distractions until the end of the time unit. And yeah, the stuff that Jason was talking about was things like that, and just like expansions of that. I learned a few new tools from him to make my own productivity better. So it was just a... yeah, I enjoyed that talk. Jeff Vogel, again, talked about the history of Spiderweb software. They've made a bunch of RPGs, like just long-running series of, yeah, I don't know how to describe them beyond that. I've played a few of them in years past, thinking I might stream some of them someday, try out some of the newer ones and see what they're like, or maybe Let's Play, I don't know. He was just a very inspiring speaker, and I enjoyed what he had to say. So, if you see these on the GDC Vault, which is their YouTube channel where they upload old talks, then they're certainly worth. I'll check if any of these 3 talks I'm talking about are up there yet, and link them if they are. Right, the third one I wanted to mention was a sponsored session from AMD, where they were talking about Vulkan rendering technology. This was actually relevant to me because I'm working on a 3D renderer of my own for some personal projects, and I got to learn some useful technical things. So even the sponsored sessions, which have the make me feel the cynicism of interacting with corporate culture the way I do, even those still have a lot of value sometimes. So this was a good one. Anyway, yeah, so that was my GDC trip. I've talked about it now. Been meaning to for a while. Yeah. So, back to medical incidents. Let's talk about that some more. Another thing that happened to me about a month and a half ago or so was I had a day where I ate kind of poorly. I ate too much food. Had a bunch of cookies, was enjoying them, and something about both the quantity and some of the stuff that I had eaten just did not agree with my stomach. And, instead of just throwing up or something, what my stomach decided to do was to tear itself apart over the last few days, or over several days after that. So I just had like this nonstop stomach pain for about 3 days straight, and didn't really know what I could do about it. Just had to wait for it to pass. This prompted me to sort of think about a few things. I feel like I've never had a particularly great relationship with food. Never been great at regulating my eating habits and stuff. I've gone on a few diets over the years to try to lose some weight when I felt like I was getting too fat, basically. I've been overweight for like the last 3 or 4 years now. Yeah, it was about that long last time I did anything about it. Every time I've done something about this has happened about 2 or 3 times, I am able to very successfully lose weight very quickly and get to the level that I want to be at. But it always came back, just because I would sort of go on a very explicit say, okay, I'm dieting, this is the stuff that I can eat, I'm going to count my calories, and, you know, this is a project that I'll have for like a couple of months until I get to my goal weight. Then I'll just go back to my eating habits. And of course, the weight comes back if I do that. So I decided, since while my stomach was tearing itself apart, my appetite just completely disappeared. I didn't want anything to do with food over these last 3 days, those 3 days. I had to force myself to eat just to, you know, have some nutrition. But I thought, well, okay, my appetite's gone. Let's see if I can sort of ride that and change my habits and just recalibrate and make a more permanent change. So I've done that. Over the last month and a half or so, I've just decided to change the way I eat. Basically having 2 meals a day now of about a normal size and almost nothing else. And it's been really good. This is very different from other times that I've decided I want to diet. Because again, the problem I kept running into was like I'd have this project with a specific end time when I reached a goal weight, and then I just fall back into old habits. So I'm thinking of this differently, more as just, I have made a change. It will result in losing weight and getting healthier, but this is a more permanent thing. It's just like, this is the new normal, and it's going to stay this way for the foreseeable future. And that's felt very good so far. So yeah, dieting is something that I actually have had a lot of interest in. There was a book I read called The Hacker's Diet. It's available free. I'll link it in the description. You can get it as a PDF or whatever. It taught me a lot of useful things. The stuff that I hear about diets is people often overcomplicate them or just think of them the wrong way and don't really do them effectively. There's sort of like 5 related but orthogonal concepts that I wanted to mention. So there's calorie intake, appetite, nutrition, exercise, and metabolism. These are all separate things. Like the very basic concept of losing weight is like, if your calories in are less than your calories out, then you're going to lose weight. My camera's telling me its battery is dying, so let me plug it in. Give me a second. There we go, fresh camera battery. I knew I should have charged it before I started. I think my framing's a little different now. Oh well, that's fine. Anyway, yeah, so, right, calories in, less than calories out, you lose weight, it's just basic physics, basically. So, sure, that part's easy, but the annoying part is convincing your appetite to let you eat less calories than normal. And, I mean, there are various techniques for this. The Hacker's Diet goes into this a little bit, I think. Low-density food is good, so, you know, your stomach feels full when it's, even if the actual calorie count of what's in it is reasonably low. Anyway, nutrition is something I actually don't know all that much about. I've never had any affliction that could be traced back to malnutrition or anything. I just sort of eat what I eat, and it seems to work okay for me. But if you're eating a lot less, then you're getting fewer nutrients and stuff. Some people recommend vitamin supplements and things, but also some people say those are completely ineffective, so I guess I don't have much to say about that other than it's a concept that exists. I don't know that much about it. Something maybe you should worry about if you want to lose weight. I don't know. Exercise. Exercise is important, but it's not the key to losing weight. You really have to eat less. It helps. It certainly makes me feel better if I do a lot of it, but the number of calories burned during exercise is not as much as people sometimes think. But anyway, it's still definitely a good thing to do. Metabolism is basically just like what your body will burn naturally. I mean, there's a thing called basal metabolic rate, which is the number of calories that your body is going to use just at rest during a normal day. And this can be measured by counting the number of calories you eat just during a normal day with normal activity and graphing your weight over time. If it's stable, then the number of calories you're eating matches your basal metabolic rate, basically. Anyway, so yeah, just useful stuff, useful concepts to understand and demystify, like, just get a good idea of what these actually are rather than the weird ideas people get about how dieting actually works. Anyway, yeah, so just recommending Hacker's Diet. It has some useful information in it. I don't follow the guide exactly, but it's just a good start to no nonsense. Here's how stuff works. Here's how you can use it to reach your goals. However, anyway, so if anybody else is interested in that, as I am, that's a book I'd recommend. All right, so this is getting kind of long, but one more topic that's come up a bunch that I should probably mention is video comments. I've had this conflict going on for the longest time about what constitutes a spoiler, basically, and how to encourage people to say things and, you know, play along with me in some way on videos without ruining the experience. It's just so hard to specify what exactly that means, and I think it's different for every person. So I keep having to try to encourage people to comment the way that doesn't ruin my experience. But every time I try to pin it down, like what that is exactly, it's just really hard to do. So basically what I'm saying these days is speculation is good. Anything that can be observed directly in the video, like stuff that I've experienced, and, you know, like, say I looked at in a Legend of Grimrock game, there's a hidden button on the wall that I looked at and just didn't even notice, then, you know, that's totally fair game to point out. But what I don't want to see, if possible, is outside information that can't be directly observed. Like, for example, say there was a spot on the wall that I never looked at, and somebody who's played the map that I'm playing knows that there's a button there. Like, telling me about that would constitute outside information, basically. So hopefully that tells you a little bit about the nuance that I'm trying to get across here. And I'm still trying to define this for myself, so I don't even have it clear in my head to try to communicate it to the rest of you. Let me do this, too. Let me define how I think about the videos that I produce, which will help put this into some context. Basically, every Let's Play that I do is supposed to be a chronicle of my experience playing a game exactly as it presents itself. In most cases, this is a game that I don't know and haven't played. Sometimes I do Let's Plays of stuff that I actually know, and that's kind of a different animal. But if I'm learning new information from the game and experiencing something, exploring a space, you know, learning mechanisms, mechanics, and stuff, like, I want the chance to see that as it's presented by the game developer, without with minimal outside influence. Like, I don't want to. Boy, well, I mean, I guess I've said what I need to say there. So hopefully that makes sense. It's just the idea of, like, people in the audience. I'd like you all to come along for the ride if you're into that. Without trying to sort of take over and steer me one way or another. Like, I want this ride to be defined by the way the game developer has chosen to present their game. Like, if there's an issue, if there's a rough edge somewhere, that's just part of the game experience as it presents itself. I don't want that rough edge smoothed over. I want to have that experience so that my chronicling of what the game is, how it presents itself, can be accurate and yeah, just unaltered, basically. So this is why I sometimes try to, when I'm particularly struggling and I'm predicting that somebody's going to want to try to help me out, I try to head that off by saying, please don't tell me about this thing that I predict people are going to tell me about. Yeah, anyway, just let me struggle. The struggle is part of the experience, and I don't want to miss that, basically. Yeah, and this is an information game. Like, if a certain piece of information enters my head that alters my experience of what's happening here, then I lose my opportunity to capture the experience as the game would in a completely isolated environment present itself. Anyway, so hopefully that helps clarify why I have the preferences that I have. Feel free to ask for further clarification if I can give any. Maybe I should have done this as a dedicated video instead of tacked on to the end of one of these. Maybe I will someday. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, yeah. So, Just one more little tiny topic I wanted to mention. Question to all of you. I want to do sort of a health check on just what's going on here. Like, is there anything that I do by habit right now, or any like ongoing problem you see on my YouTube channel that you know, seems like a problem, seems like something I should look at or try to change? Just like stuff that I'm not seeing that I'm doing that could be better. Open question. Like an example is sometimes I'll go back and look at some of my older videos just for reference to see how I've changed my perspective on things, or if I want to remember a certain part of a game. One of the things I noticed a lot in some of the like I went through my Environmental Station Alpha series so that I'd remember what I had done before I streamed my replay. And one of the things that really stood out to me about that is, at a lot of times during that, I'd get really complainy and negative about a lot of stuff, like way more than I would like to these days. I couldn't see it then. It was invisible to me because it was just the way that things were. But now that I've sort of made a gradual change and gotten some distance from that, so now I can see the other side of before that gradual change started and see how much of a problem that was then. So yeah, like little things that might just be invisible to me. If anybody knows about stuff like that, I'd love to hear about them. So yeah, just feedback on any of that. So maybe there's nothing that anybody has observed. Anyway, yeah, so this is a good space to talk about stuff like that. Anyway, cool. Yeah, so I've rambled for long enough. I'm going to have limited internet during my trip. I should hopefully be able to read and respond to comments at least a time or two during the day. I hope. I won't have anything that I could like upload a video from. Probably won't be able to watch videos from the people that I follow. But at the very least, I'll try to keep up with activity that's going on. Anyway, yeah, so I'll see you in a little more than a week. And yeah, for all the pre-recorded stuff that I'm doing now, yeah, right after this, I'm going to go off and play Recursed, probably do a little bit of Grimrock and Omega Land and stuff, try to get ahead just a little bit. I don't like to get too far ahead with stuff like that because I prefer to record it the day before it goes up, but I can do just a little bit here, what I have time for today, before I have to pack up and go to sleep and get ready to leave in the morning. Anyway, cool. So, yeah, I'll see you after a little more than a week.